Good morning, Sonya.
Good morning, Judith.
Welcome to the Coach's Cup. I'm Coach Judith Fender, and this morning we are talking about vulnerability. And with vulnerability, this was a really good toss off to my esteemed co-host, Sonya Green, who is endeavoring on some new vulnerable challenges. Right? Would it be a challenge, career? Help me out with the words here.
Yeah, it's definitely vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
I hope it's not. I mean, I guess it'll all be a challenge, right? Challenge is good. Challenge is where growth is. That's what I tell my students all
Gotta have
the
some
time.
courage.
Yeah, I am starting to plan speaking engagements for the end of this year, because at the end of May, I will be retiring.
Mhm.
And, I've been an educator for 29 years. I will always be an educator. And so even though I'll also be coaching one-on-one, it hit me one day that I don't want to stop interacting with groups of people as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that
So,
when I really go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, so who is your market, your target group? Who's going to?
Well, it can be a variety. In my mind, I picture, and some of the things that I've done before are speaking to companies, speaking to schools and their professional development. But I think clubs, organizations could also use this, because the things we talk about, like vulnerability, like mind management, like work-life balance, are all things that all of those people need. And so, yeah, it is a little vulnerable. In fact, I shared on, was it our Love podcast, about how this change in career has left me feeling very vulnerable. But this is a part that I'm doing. I have no second guesses about this, because interacting with my students has been the joy of my career. So this part is easy. If you need me, find me.
SonyaGreenCoaching.com.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. And you can email me. You can reach out by email or DM me on Instagram. But yeah, I'm excited about this. This is the fun kind of vulnerability.
Yeah. Well, if you need somebody to carry your luggage, I'm all about some trips.
I know. I know it. We can manage that.
Yeah. Well, that's so good. So again, on the theme of vulnerability, and we decided that we'll go with Brene Brown's definition right off the bat.
Yeah, I don't think we can do better than that.
Yeah. So Brene gives us the definition from Atlas of the Heart, that it is the emotion that we experience during times of uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. Sonya.
Yeah. I have a story to tell about emotional exposure, because when I read that, vulnerability it's like exposing everything about you. And my dad played football in high school, and he was apparently a pretty good football player. But after every game, he said every game he ever played in high school, he always had a dream that he was walking around, whatever he was doing, he was naked.
Oh, bless it.
And that's what I think about when I think about emotional exposure. We will have those, what I call naked dreams. Or dreams of being unprepared. Have you ever had a dream that you were walking into a test and you didn't know there was
no, it's the homework. I still have homework dreams that I didn't get the homework done.
Yes, that is
35 years ago.
Exposure. So I had to share that, because I think everybody's had some version of that.
Oh my gosh. Oh, wait a minute. Is it possible that you haven't had vulnerable exposure if you're listening to this podcast?
And if you haven't, shame on you for not getting out there
Oh,
and
wait a minute.
stretching your limit. We are going to get you to stretch your limits.
Shame and vulnerability go together, you know. Hold
Yeah,
on.
I didn't really mean the shame
Ain't
on
no-
you. Yeah. But there needs to be a naked dream in your future.
Mhm. Mm. Well, so what kind of got us going? Of course, we've touched on vulnerability several times, but I have worked with clients in the past who are older, and one in particular was caring for her husband and did not want to ask for help. And her husband did have medical conditions where, she was at an age and he was at a condition that she needed both physical help and she needed emotional support.
Yeah.
And she grew up of a generation that, by the bootstraps, and she was very accomplished and currently is, she's still here. But a lot of the coaching that we did was on her resistance to asking for help and the vulnerability that she felt and the stories that her brain would go to as to why she wouldn't ask for help and how hard she would work and make her life to not ask for help, to be so self-sufficient to a fault, but with a lot of pain and suffering.
That whole bootstrap concept is very strong in our culture. And I'm going to, I hope I don't upset anybody. That's a myth. That is a complete myth that we like to believe. We like to believe that we pick ourselves up by our bootstraps and do everything independently on our own. But when we start examining the real successes in life, how many of those people did it completely alone, pulled themselves up by their bootstraps and never got any help?
Right. And that story,
Yes.
right? It's a deeply embedded, I'm going to say it,
It
deeply
is.
embedded story. And her brain could find evidence
Mhm.
for all the ways. Very compelling story.
Yeah.
Lots of stories. But the resistance and how easy it is, one, to be an outsider and think, asking for help, it's okay. It is actually a sign of strength. Sorry, my stool fell. My feet. I heard that little shake in my voice. Sorry. Oops. But that it is not a sign of weakness, which was my client's perception that she would be weak to ask for help. And it stemmed from a lot of fear, right? She's aging and not and seeing it as the combination of her age and vulnerability in that moment with her story.
Yeah. But we can find those stories, reasons not to ask for help at any age. And I think that's why this is such an important topic. There's no, I guess I feel really exposed on this topic because it's one that I have dealt with. I've believed that story, that it's weak to ask for help. And have actually over the last 3 or 4 months, especially, been trying to work on accepting and asking for help from others because it's something I have to actively do. It does not feel right in my body.
Right.
Like all the sirens go off if I start to think I need to ask for help. All the reasons why I don't need to ask for help. You can do this. You don't want to do that. What are they going to think of you?
Similarly, even you saying that, I think about versions of me a couple months ago too. I didn't even know that I didn't even know how to ask for help. I don't even know that story as much as I was just paralyzed
That,
with.
yes, that's true. That is such a good point. I know when, I've mentioned back in December when Dad was not well, and then we had the tornado, and several times people reached out to me and said, what can I do to help? What can I do? I'll do. What do you need? And I was like, there's nothing. And I really did not think there was anything. And my sweet administrative assistant, she texted me and she said, Tuesday, when you get here, I'm going to have a salad and a chicken pot pie for you to take home for dinner that night.
Mhm.
And is that okay? And I got ready to text back, oh no, you don't need to do that. But I thought, no, that sounds fantastic. And that's exactly what I'm going to say to her. And that is what I said. And it was fantastic not to have to cook dinner.
Right. And what a gift, because then you allowed her to experience the gift of giving, which makes the circle complete on the exchange. It allowed her to feel valued and to care for you. And you got to feel valued. You got to expose yourself and to feel cared for and valued by your friend. How awesome.
Yeah. But I think you're right. I think so many times we don't even know what to ask for because the story is so strong in our brains that we do it ourselves.
Right. And I can totally, thinking about myself, it's exactly, and it was shortly before Christmas, mostly after Christmas, that I could even articulate and look back with a lot of clarity, and maybe overwhelm, maybe depression, maybe grief, who knows what all of those emotions were. But it's something to consider when you're working, with your family members, or, having that ability to, I guess I'm going to go with empathy, stepping into the empathy role, and what's going on in their world? What could they be experiencing? And how can you help someone who is not asking for help, who in your life might need help and is not asking?
Yeah. And being specific like that, if she hadn't said, I'm bringing this,
It wasn't an option.
Yeah, exactly. And that was comforting hearing that. But, many times it is when the vulnerability is within us, it's easy to offer help to other people. How do we get in a mindset to think about how to ask for help? Like when you're coaching those clients, how do you help them get into that mindset?
With this particular client, it was a process of showing her, getting her to see that the real value and the authenticity is asking for help, to be that it takes courage, which is not weakness, and that it is authentic to ask for help, that there are those who do want to help her and who they perceive her, right? And her perception was getting her to see to open up her vision and her perception on what was going on.
Yeah, I think that is such a key. If we could focus more on seeing our own vulnerability as someone else's opportunity to shine, I think that could help to change the perception, because instead of seeing it as an opportunity for us to be weak, it's an opportunity for somebody else to shine.
Yeah, 100%.
Not sure how we do that other than just creating awareness. I mean, awareness is always
the key.
Yeah.
Awareness. I mean, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So in doing a little research, I literally typed in the word vulnerability and podcast, and I came up with Jason Rosario, and he is an Afro Latino man. And it was just interesting as he was talking about we talk so much about women,
Mm-hmm.
and what caught me is I guess it's his word. He coined this word, machoism, machimo, and about how men have the learned belief, right, particularly in the Black community, in the Latino community, to not express emotional pain or the pressure they feel around masculinity and being stoic.
Yeah.
Right. And so he's talking about, their perception of being vulnerable, like in the workplace, or being parents, and what it's like, and like ending the cycle of machoismo.
Machismo? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, holy shit. That's it. You've heard of it too, huh?
Yeah.
Can't read my writing.
Well, that's what I was thinking as you were talking. I wonder if she's talking about machismo.
I knew as I was saying, I was like, that is not right. I have listened to it. Shit.
No, I do that too. I do it all the time. The words just come
out. Coffee out on that one.
Yeah. But
there I am being vulnerable.
That's right. That's right. And
sticking it out there, just shining.
That's right. You'll have a naked dream tonight, won't you?
Let me just open my neck up, expose myself.
Yeah.
No naked dreams tonight, right?
But for men, I do think it's even harder to be vulnerable. We don't talk about men and vulnerability, and men don't talk about men and vulnerability very often either.
No. And so where my brain was going with this, I had a connection, and he cited some research that males under the age of 5 are actually more sensitive, emotionally expressive than girls, but that at around age 6 it starts going the other way.
Yeah.
But what I was thinking about in particular with the male community, the Black Latino male community, is thinking about if I said outlier population, or the not typical, right? At least for us, but how marginalized, I think might be the word. And maybe that's not even the word I want to use, but what everyone brings to the table, right? Considering the whole person and their experience that they bring, whether it's to the workplace, whether it's where you go to the grocery store, that, and the collective experience that every human has, how it is more than just, an exchange of niceties at a checkout counter when you're buying your groceries, that every person has that story built up, and their risk of being vulnerable comes with them. The fear, the stories. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I think we carry around a lot of that. Like I said, it's the whole bootstraps. It's a myth. I just won't call it anything but a myth. But
why are you calling it? I'm just curious, because to me it what it means is, it's what they thought, right? It's
right. But I think it is so ingrained in American culture that to be, I don't want to say important, but we value people, especially, people who are already high up, like, I don't know, Jeff Bezos or somebody like that. We don't want to hear that they were a trust fund baby and had everything they needed and were in the lap of luxury and created a huge corporation. We want to hear that they were poor and they had no support, and they had, they figured it out. They pulled themselves up by their bootstraps. That is a story deep within our culture. We like those stories because they give us hope that we can be that person. It is a story, but it's a myth. too, because even people, nobody does it without help. Nobody. I'm not saying somebody's there to give you a bag of money,
Yeah.
but somebody is there supporting you in some way.
Yeah.
Even if it's a small kindness along the way, a teacher who mentored you, nobody does it. And so I call it a myth because I want to get rid of the perception that we succeed on our own.
Boy, I'm going to tell you what, my brain just went down to, I can't even keep my mouth shut. Married my family. I'm just going to say it that, my parents had a lot of success, and that oftentimes, many times people gave credit to my dad. Right. And he didn't get there alone. He had my mom right there with him supporting, and they, and they had other, but I'm thinking like marriages.
Yes.
That how we are culturally, like how the male gets the credit.
Yes.
For the success, and the woman is staying home raising the kids and working.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, we are a society created to be a society, to be in community. We don't do things alone, and men don't do things, more important things than women.
No.
And when they carry that mantle around that I'm the man, I have to do all the important things, that's not fair to them. It's also not fair to the women.
Oh.
So, yeah, there is a story where men are afraid to be vulnerable. There is a myth. We need to blow that up. Sorry, I wasn't planning on preaching today.
No, but I love it because you're schooling me here too, because then my mind thinks about last week or a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about the client that I had that went on the retreat or the business thing, and they got out on the sand. Yes. It was like all about his macho war things versus, there's a handful of women there, but his level of inability to be vulnerable, right? Because he had to make it physical.
Yes. Because he was comfortable with the physical.
Right.
And when we're being vulnerable, we are never comfortable. We are naked dreaming it.
Right. Yeah. But then there's also, when I think about this, is like the ability to articulate what you're feeling. And I think in the male culture, they are not exposed to that, right? I mean, if we're going to go with the myth, the value in it is they aren't exposed to other males who are exposing themselves and being vulnerable and talking about their feelings. Unless
they're using them to talk about how weak they are. If guys are talking about their feelings, ooh, that's weakness. Those aren't the guys. Those aren't the kids you want to be, son.
That hurts my heart a whole lot.
It does.
That's going on.
But it's not just men. And this is where I bring myself into it. I got a feelings wheel on my wall because I need a constant reminder that there are feelings out there more than just glad, mad, and sad. So, it is mainly men, but a lot of us struggle with being vulnerable with our feelings and knowing what they are. And I still sometimes can't get past positive and negative. I know if it's positive or negative, but I can't get much past that.
I think I feel them all. I think I can name them all
individually.
I know them all well, down to the 10-minute mark.
So how do people practice vulnerability? Because that's what it takes, right? That's what we preach on everything. You've got to practice it.
Well, I think like we might be a prime example. I'm just going to put us out there, showing up on these podcasts and being willing to put our words out, and being willing to set ourselves up for hopefully praise, and there's going to be criticism at some point
Absolutely.
that people aren't going to agree.
Yeah.
But we're willing to show up and say our words and try to have intellectual conversations that are stimulating for both us and our listeners.
Mhm.
I find a large degree of vulnerability that when I'm coaching, when I'm
Yes.
coaching live, it takes so much so that I think I'm thankful that I can tune most of it out.
Mhm.
Mostly after, when I think, oh, that was really courageous. It takes a lot of courage.
Right. Isn't correct me here if I'm wrong, but doesn't Brene Brown call vulnerability courage walking?
Right. Like it means you're in the arena of life.
Yes.
You've got some skin in the game.
Yes. You are being courageous by putting yourself out there. And yeah, I always think about that when you're live coaching, how much I admire you for having the courage to do that, because it takes courage.
It does. And it gets better with practice. I'm sitting here kind of a little amazed at myself. I try not to think about it too much. I don't think I'm a little nervous, got some sweat coming out right now. Thinking about it.
Well, but even, a lot of people don't live in a way that maybe their vulnerability is going to be that big, at least the first time.
Yeah.
But there are small ways we can be vulnerable and practice it. And sometimes it's good, I think, to practice those little ways. I said I was practicing being vulnerable, accepting help when it's offered to me. That's a very small practice. Apologizing
Yeah.
when maybe I feel like I have not been the person that I need to be in a situation. That's a vulnerable place for a person to be sometimes.
And see, and it's so funny. I mean, when I hear that, and I know intellectually I get it, but I'm thinking like personally, but if it aligns with your values of being authentic and true, or trusting, then maybe it's not as exposing as it sounds.
So let's think
But
about
you are
this.
saying like little, like, right, like little.
Yes, but think about this in terms of the model. So let's take this whole apologizing. Let's say I told, I don't know. Let's say I told a student that that they're a horrible writer. Okay, let's say that I lost my cool one day and I said, "You're a horrible writer. You should never write again." I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted. We're talking about the model. So my thought was probably something like, I don't know how to help this person. And the feeling was exasperation. And so in that moment, I said those words. My values are what lead me to be vulnerable. My values say that I am authentic and genuine, and I don't tear people down. I build people up. So it's my values that lead me to think, well, I need to apologize. I mean, we can get into the whole apology thing and thoughts, and some people say, well, according to the model, it's what they think, not what you
Right.
said.
And that's ultimately, yeah, I wasn't breaking it down in models, but I was into the values. Like, but if it's what you value,
yes,
being
but
authentic,
that leads me to say, I'm going to apologize because that's what my values are. And so
and even that takes so much awareness for, again, coming back to that awareness component, to knowing that feeling when you're not in alignment or in integrity with yourself. Yep.
Absolutely. And that's where I said, I don't often, sometimes I can't get past the positive or negative. I don't know exactly what the feeling is. But if I've got that negative little feeling hanging on to me, it's probably because I am not in integrity in some way.
Yeah. It's just your indicator to check in.
Yeah, exactly.
Like red lights.
Yeah, that's what I'm flashing I'm flashing my lights here. But that's what leads me to examine that and think, oh, Now, if I told a student that, it'd probably be ever present in my brain for a little while. I mean, that would be an easy one to figure out. But sometimes I really have to dig in and think, what is this negativity that's hanging on to me? And it's, oh, I did this thing and that goes against my values. And that's why I'm feeling this way. And so maybe I need to reach out to somebody and be vulnerable and say, I'm not perfect.
You're not?
What? Yeah.
Oh, girl.
Yeah. So, I mean, I do think we need to practice small opportunities to be vulnerable.
Yeah. You can build that muscle.
Yeah.
Get in the arena.
Yeah.
Get some skin in the game. Be nice. Like, be nice.
Kindness is everything.
Yes, it is.
I have that on the back of my car.
I'm not wearing my shirt today, but
yeah, you're be kind. I didn't even think about that when we did the kindness, but I do. I have
a
bumper sticker that says kindness is everything. Yeah.
Matters. Kindness matters.
But, when I meant to say this earlier, but another thing, this isn't related to vulnerability necessarily, but many times when we need to ask for help and we're not asking for help, it's because we have a manual for other people. We think they should be offering, or we think they should be doing the thing.
Oh my gosh. That's a whole nother side of the coin right there.
It is.
That's
but
a whole nother set of feelings.
It is. And it's a whole nother podcast too. But I do want people to be aware that if you're feeling like, well, I shouldn't have to ask, somebody else they should know that I need help right now. Check yourself there, sister.
I know. I'm like, oh,
it is. It's a big one.
Oh, I know. I'm like, that's a whole nother relationship to work on right there.
Yes, it is. So just be aware that's a chance to work on a different part of you. And it's also an indicator, oh, well, maybe I need a little vulnerability instead of thinking everybody else should know what I need.
Yeah. Yeah. You be vulnerable with yourself.
Yes.
And that's the bottom line where all of this goes, is because it's the perceived fear of what others will think, but really it's you getting in with yourself and being honest with yourself and what you need. And the only person you're hurting by not asking for help or being vulnerable with is yourself. It's self-examination.
Yes. Well said. Yeah. All right. Anything else we want to say before we wrap this one up?
I can't think of anything.
All right. If you are working on your emotional exposure, on your vulnerability, and you would like someone to coach you through that, you can find me at sonyagreencoaching.com or on Instagram at Sonya, SONYA_green coaching.
And if you would like coaching on weight loss and all the things that come up in between, you can find me at No BS Losing 100 Pounds with Corinne Crabtree. You can find me on Instagram, and that is Just Judy, Judi.
Yeah. JUST
email. Yeah.
All right. We would also love for you to share this podcast with someone, or give us a review on Instagram. And it doesn't have to be a 5-star review. We're going to be vulnerable. If you have criticism, we'll take it. You can do that as well.
That would be an expression of our vulnerability.
That's right. That's right.
Feedback. Willingness to give it.
We will face negative feedback. All right. We'll see you next week, folks.
Bye, y'all.